thank you for joining me today. We're going to be working on our Friday sketch, and we're using the sugar sketch, and the number is here in the photo, and I will have a link to their blog down in the information below. Okay, so normally I have everything pre-cut and ready to go, but I decided that I wanted to cut some of the pieces with you as I go today. So this video is going to be a little bit longer than usual, but I kept it this way on purpose, only because you're going to see how I cut this. I'm putting the pieces together and then I don't like it. I cut them too wide, they're too short, they don't look right to me, and so I scrap it and work on it off camera where there's no pressure. Sometimes when you're recording and you're, creating, because I don't have measurements and stuff already written on it, it takes a little bit to figure out, to get it to look the way you want, to match the sketch that we're working with. So I'm sharing that today. Oh, and by the way, if you notice, my one nail is messed up. It happened right before the video, and life, it is what it is. So it'll be fixed. I'm just letting you know, I know it's messed up. Alright, so I rounded the corners on my matte piece and my focal piece. And at this moment I realize, in looking at the screen, my center piece is too wide and my other pieces may be too small. So I go to trim, and one of the things that I always try to do is I try to make things a little bit bigger in the hopes that if it's too big, I can always trim down, because if you trim too much, you can always make it too short and then it won't work at all. So it's a weird balance that you're trying to do. Once I got the focal piece kind of where I wanted it, I was like, well, let me figure out the size for my pieces underneath. Now mind you, I'm putting it at 3.5. I'm like, that's too short, so I take it down to 4. The one's to 4, and then the second piece, I did it at like 4.5, I think it was. Well, later on I realized that it really should have been 5 inches for the longest strip, and then 4 for the shorter strip, which is what I wind up doing off camera when I fix my pieces. So I re-cornered the edges that I had to cut, and now I'm just going to lay it down. I like the fact that it has shortened. You can see more of the underneath paper, and now I'm gonna kind of play with my angles. And I realized in cutting the first one that my angle was probably too severe. So I still keep going because I'm like, well, let me just see if I can make this work. And I'm laying down the pink piece here, and I'm realizing that even after I trim this, I cut it too short. It's not going to be enough, or I'm going to have to shorten again my focal piece. So in trying to figure out what all this is doing, I get a little frustrated, and this is the point where I'm like, I'm gonna stop the camera. Those are too short. This isn't working. I need to make it longer and shorter, so I toss them. And this is what I came up with while I was off camera. So to continue on, so this isn't like a 3-hour video, I'm laying out the 2 pieces that I want to use for my sentiment. I have this really beautiful branch set that comes from the Kaiser Craft Hunami Garden, and the sentiment from the same stamp set. And we're just going to stamp them in the VersaFine Black Onyx ink. And the sentiment itself, I am going to wind up heat embossing it. But first I'm going to work on the branch with the flowers first. So once we get it inked up, and at first when I was tapping this, the stem got extra ink on it, so I wiped it off and re-stamped it lightly. because it's a thinner area. I didn't want to get the ink all over the place. So we're going to press down, pull up, and then we're going to do the sentiment. We'll ink that up as well. And then we're going to stamp it on the right side. And at this point, I was thinking, well, you know, do I want to do the heat embossing on it? I wasn't sure. But I still have my clear, Nuvo clear powder on my desk. So I thought, well, why not? So I put the powder on. And I very gently try and pour it back into the same container. And then I'm just going to take it off to the side and kind of huff on it to get any extra embossing powder off. So once I do that, I heat up my heat tool. And we go ahead and melt that. And once that's done, then it's time to really just put the whole thing together. So I'm going to grab my score tape. Score tape. It's not score tape. My tape runner. Oh my god, my brain just went boom, boom. Yes, my tape runner. I'm going to lay down the adhesive and attach it to the mat and put that to the side. And then I'm also going to basically attach my two stripes, my two strips of paper there. And then once I get them attached together, I'm going to go ahead and attach the base and then build up from there. Now this particular sketch, what's funny to me is that it's actually, if you look at it, it looks very simple, and yet it was probably one of the harder ones to do, because I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, where it's like your hands are willing and your mind is like 3 steps behind. So it was like that for me with the beginning at this, you know, working on this card. So I'm keeping everything flat, so that way for, you know, if you want to mail it out, stuff like that, it keeps it, you know, nice and even. You don't have to worry about anything being smushed or, you know, taken off during the course of it being mailed. And I just hold it up so I can make sure that everything is lining up the way that I want it. And once it is, I just laid it down and press. And then I took some art glitter glue and I'm attaching a little like chipboard flower piece. And once that's added, I'm like, really, as far as the sketch is concerned, we're done. Okay, the card is put together. It looks exactly like it's supposed to. But I realized I wanted to add some sparkle of some sort. And it's been a while since I used sequins, so I decided to bring out my Pretty Pink Posh. And I want to say it's the clearly clear crystal mix from Pretty Pink Posh. And I'm just laying down 3 at the bottom. And I'm going to put 4 up at the top. So that way it brings your eye into the center where the sentiment and everything is. And for attaching the sequins, I have my multi-medium mat. And we're just going to take the top off of the precision tip and go ahead and lay those down. And if you have tweezers, you can use tweezers. These particular sequins are a little bit bigger, so it wasn't that hard for my hand, you know, for me to pick it up with my fingers, especially with the nails, so that's what I use this time. And we're just laying down the final sequin. And sometimes I'll do that with the precision tip. I'll kind of press down the sequin so that way it holds. And there you have it, all nice and sparkly. So here at the end, we're just showing you close-ups of the finished product. Thank you guys for joining me. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and share button. And at the very end of this video, we will have links to our last 3 Friday sketches. And this weekend, we'll actually be doing our very last Prima watercolor card. We would have done all 12 cards that came in the kit, and I'm so excited. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. And make sure, I know I said to subscribe, but it's really important to do that, so that way when a new video pops up, you guys will get notified. Thanks again, and you guys have a great weekend.